Hi, welcome to my video on Find the Least Common Denominator of a Rational Expression, Part 1. The least common denominator. The least common denominator is denoted by LCD. And we also, if we look back at my previous unit on finding denominator of a fraction, the LCD is very similar to least common multiple. Only difference is multiples are the multiples of 4 are 4, 2 times 4 is 8, 3 times 4 is 12, etc. But multiples and denominators are the same, except least common denominators in the denominator of a fraction. Recall the LCD of natural numbers. I'm going to look back at the same method that I did with fractions. Or I'm going to recall the same method. That is, if I have two numbers, then I'll write the numbers in prime factorization. So 2 is 2 times 1, 3 is 3 times 1. So I have two factors, so I write down the two factors, and the LCD is the product. The highest exponent of 2 and 3 is a 1, so the LCD is 6 for the 2 and the 3. I have an 8 and a 6. The prime factorization, 8 is 2 times 4. 4 is 2 times 2. So 8 is 2 cubed. 6 is 2 times 3. So the factors I have are 2 and a 3. The highest power of 2 is 3. Highest power of 3 is a 1. So 8 times 3 is 24. That's my LCD for 6 and 8. In other words, 3 8s are 24, 4 6s, excuse me, are 24. Let's look at C when I have 10 and 25. 10 is 2 times 5. 25 is 5 times 5, which is 5 squared. So I have a factor of 2 and a factor of 5. The highest exponent of 2 is 1. Highest exponent of 5 is 1, and 2 is a 2. So that's 2 times 25, which is the LCD for 10 and 25 is 50. And 50 is a multiple of 10, and a multiple of 25 is the least one. D, let's look at the denominators of 4, 14, and 6. It's not the numerator, it's the denominator. So 4 is 2 times 2, which is 2 squared. Oops, 2 squared. I better write down square. 14 is 2 times 7. 6 is 2 times 3. So that's the prime factorization. I have a factor of 2, factor of 3, and a factor of 7 if I put them in order. The highest power of 2 is 2, a 1, and a 1, so it's a 2. Highest power of 3 is a 1. Highest power of 7 is a 1, so it's 4 times 3 times 7. So that's 12 times 7, and that's an LCD for 4, 14, and 6 is 84. In other words, 4, 14, and 6 will all divide into 84. 84 is the least common multiple. That's the pattern I'm going to use for finding the LCD of any rational expression. Same pattern. Here we go. Find different factors of algebraic expression. If I have an expression of 2x, then the factors are a 2 and an x. If I have an expression of x squared y, the factors are an x and a y. And if I have x times x minus 1, the factors are x and x minus 1. If I have 4 times x plus 3, the factors here are a 4, but a 4 also has a 2, and it also has an x plus 3. So notice there's a 2 and 4, so I have to go a factor of 4, which is a 2, I have to put that down. Now I have a 6x times x minus 7. So the factor of 6, one factor is 6. Also a 6 has a 3 as a factor. A 6 has a 2 as a factor. And we have an x and we have an x minus 7, because x minus 7 is one of the factors that make up this algebraic expression. And right here we have two binomials. One factor is x plus 4, and the other factor is x minus 9. And here we have an x cubed times x minus 2. So one of the factors is x, and the other factor is x minus 2. Even though it's a cube there, but a factor is x. It's an x times an x. X cubed is x times x times x, but a factor is just x. And the factors of this one, there's a 2, there's a 3x minus 4, and there's an x plus 6. So that's picking out the different factors, because that's important on how I do the LCD. And let's continue. Let's turn this page over. Page 3 of 4. What if the denominators are monomial algebraic expressions? The LCD has to have each factor and its highest exponent. Very same as I did with the numbers. I have to take each factor and write it down as being multiplied, and then I have to find the highest power, and then I simplify it. Here we go. Examples. Find the LCD of each. So the factor of 2 is a 2. The factor of x is an x. So the LCD is the product. 2 times x. The LCD at the denominator factor of this denominator is a. The factor of this denominator is b. So the LCD is the product of a times b, ab. Notice this LCD, which is, I'm calling 2x, this LCD has a 2 in it and has an x in it. This LCD is AB, so A is in AB and B is in AB. In other words, each denominator should be represented by this LCD. So AB has both of these in it, so that's the LCD. It's another way to tell. Now we have a 6, which is a 2 times 3, and 4x is 2 times 2 and x. So we have a 2, and we have a 3, and we have an x. That's the different factors. But notice the 2, I'll write it down, 2 times 2 is 2 squared. So 2 has a power of 2, x has a power of 1, 3 has a power of 1. So that's 4 times 3 times x. So the LCD is 12x. Notice the common denominator for 4 and 6 is 12, and you have to have an x. Notice 6 is in 12x. 4x is in 12x. So 4x times 3 will give you 12x. 6 times 2x. So if you multiply 2x by 6, you get 12x. If you multiply 3 by 4x, you get 12x. So each one of these denominators are in this one as factors. So this is a factor of 12x. 4x is a factor of 12x. Now we have D. We have a factor of x and x. So x is the common factor here. X is in this one. X is in this one. But the smallest exponent is 2. Or sorry, the largest exponent is 2. LCD, you got to pick the highest exponent. So 2 is a factor of each, but we pick the highest exponent. Check. X is a factor of x squared, and x squared is a factor of x squared. So each one of these denominators are in here. E, I have an AB and an A squared. So I need a factor of A, and I need a factor of B. But I need A has a 2 and a 1, so I need the A squared and the B. So the LCD is A squared B. So A and B are both in here. A squared is in here. So that's the LCD for this pair. F, let's check through. I have a factor of X. I have a factor of Y. And the highest power of X is 3. And the highest power of Y is 4. So that's the LCD. And again, this denominator is in here. you can see x cubed is here and the y is here. And this one, x squared, is in here with an extra x, and y to the fourth is right here. So this is the LCD for these two. And G, I have a 4 and a 10. So if you look at the 4 and the 10, then you think of 20. So 4 is 2 times 2. 10 is 2 times 5. So that's 2 squared. So I have 2 times a 5. And the power of 2 is a 2 and a 1. So I get 2 squared times 5. I have an x as a factor. And the highest power is 1. I have a y as a factor. I better be careful right here with that. Let's use a dot because I'm using x's and y's. So let's use a dot for multiplication. And the highest power of y is a 2. So that's 4 times 5 is 20 x y squared. The LCD for 10 and 4 is 20. No, 4 is in 20 5 times. 10 is in 22 times. The x is in both of these. The x here is represented by this x, and this x is represented here. The y is right here with a y squared, and the y squared is here. So this is the LCD. In other words, these two denominators are in here. If you divide both of these into this one, you'll get something left over. H, 16 and 12. Let's deal with the numbers first. 16 is 2 times 8. 8 is 2 times 4. 4 is 2 times 2. So 16 is 2 to the 4. 12 is 2 times 6, and 6 is 2 times 3. So I have a 2 and a 3, and notice I have a 2 squared times 3. So the LCD for 16 and 12, I have to have a 2 and I have to have a 3 because they're the factors. The highest power of 2 is a 4. The highest power of 3 is 1. So that's 16 times 3. So 48 is the LCD for 16 and 12. In other words, 16 goes into 48 3 times. 12 goes into 48 4 times. Now, let's pick up the literal coefficients. As I see an x in each one, but the x don't have to be in each one. Whatever factor, I have a factor of x, so the highest power is 4. I have a factor of y, so the highest power is a 2. I have a factor of a, so the highest power is 6. What you do with the variables, as in x's and y's and a's and factors, if the factor is there, then you have to write that factor down. And then you check the exponent of that factor and pick the highest. So that's the LCD for these two. 48 x to the 4 y squared a6. And let's continue. Again, the more practice you get, picking out the LCD is very important when you're adding and subtracting fractions. So this is why I'm explaining it a little bit at a time. Practice, find the LCD of each. So here we go. I have a 7 as a factor. I have 2 as a factor, and I have x as a factor. And the 2 and the 7 gives you 14. The highest power of x is 1. So the LCD for 7x and 2x is 14x. 7x goes into 14x 2 times. 2x goes into 14x 7 times. So both of these denominators are factors of 14x. They're represented in here. 10 and 15, you want to go through. Common denominator for 10 and 15 is 30. And I have to have an x. In other words, if you can see, 10 is 2 times 5. 15 is 3 times 5. So you have a 2, you have a 3, and you have a 5. 2, 3, and 5 are the factors, and there's only one power of each. The highest power of 5 is 1. Highest power of 2 is 1. Highest power, so that's 6 times 5, which makes the 30. So, and I have to have the x. So 30x is the LCD. In other words, 10x is here as a factor times 3. 15 is a factor of this, and then you can say that's 2x. If you multiply 15 by 2x, you get 30x. So both of these denominators are in here as factors. Number 3, I have a 2 and a 1, so 2 is a factor. I have an x as a factor, and the highest power of x is 2. So 2x squared is the LCD for these two. In other words, x squared is right here, and 2x is 2, and the x is here. So this is the LCD. You write down each factor, and then you write down the highest exponent of that factor. I have a 3x and a 5y. I have a 3, I have a 5, I have an x, and I have a y. So the LCD is 15xy. 3x is a factor of 15xy. 5y is a factor of 15xy. Number 5, I have a 4 and a 6. I could say right away that the LCD for 4 and 6 is 12. Well, let's look at them. 4 is 2 times 2, which is 2 squared. 6 is 2 times 3, so that's 2 times 3. One factor, the factor here is 2, the factor here is 3. The highest power of 2 is 2. So that gives me 4 times 3, 12. If you can see, 4 and 6 got a LCD of 12. So again, think of least common denominator as a multiple. So what's the multiple of 4 is also a multiple of 6, 12. Now I look at the variables. I have an x as a factor. I have a y as a factor. And the highest exponent of x is 2. So there's the LCD. So 4xy is a factor of 12x squared y. 6x squared is a factor of 12x squared y. 9 and 27. Remember, 27 is 3 times 9. So 27 is an LCD. It's a multiple. 9 goes into 27. So 27 represents 27, and 9 is in 27. I have an x, and I have a y as a factor. The highest power of x is 2. The highest power of y is 5. So the LCD is 27 x squared y5. And number 7, I have a 3, a 4, and a 2. What's LCD is like a multiple. So what's a multiple of 3? What number? Smallest number will 2, 4, and 3 divide into? So the numbers are okay. So you said 12. Perfect. And we have an x, and we have y as factors. The highest power of x, 1 and 2, 2. Highest power of y is 1 and 2. 2 is the highest power. So 12, x squared, y squared is the LCD. And that brings us to picking up the monomial LCDs. Hopefully you understand what we're doing. If you like my video, click the like button, click the subscribe button, click the notification bell. Visit my math website, www.mathfullyexplained.com, to find more information about me, my videos, and the content. And that's the content that's on my YouTube channel called Math Fully Explained. Thank you for viewing my video. Bye-bye.